KGB may have found in an Egyptian tomb.
The objective of this particular mission was to find the knowledge which was left behind from an advanced culture.
I was one of the first to be recruited by the KGB.
I don't believe the soldiers realized the significance of what they were looking at.
Got orders, you have to do it.
The first hard evidence of an humanoid extraterrestrial life form.
Possible extraterrestrial contact at a distant time in an ancient land.
Remember, nobody knows my name.
See possible evidence of a mass alien abduction.
Papa!
Learn what could be the horrifying truth behind alien abduction. In 1961, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin lifted off in a Soyuz space capsule and spent 45 minutes in orbit. For decades, we have believed that the first human beings in space were Russian. Is it possible, though, that centuries earlier, the first people to leave the Earth were ancient Egyptians? And did Soviet researchers learn this early in the 1960s? Recent evidence out of the former USSR indicates that indeed Russian agents were very curious about artifacts uncovered in Egypt. Artifacts which they believe suggest early contact between humans and beings not from this planet. Assumed the hunting ground for extraterrestrial life is above our planet. You watch the skies for UFOs. You probe the domain of deep space for the telltale signs of ET. Who would have thought to look underground for aliens? No one except the KGB. Dr. Viktor Ivanovich claims to hold degrees in astrophysics and neurology. Ivanovich says while serving in the Kremlin as advisor on advanced propulsion, he gained access to the archives of a KGB mission called Project ISIS.
Project ISIS, it was targeted at discovering Egyptian artifacts and knowledge that may have military applications. ISIS was one of the several covert research missions that KGB was conducting during that time.
According to Ivanovich, during the course of the mission, a discovery was made that may well be the most important in the history of mankind.
There is no disputing the fact that a small group of Russian scientists, together with military experts on radioactivity and chemical warfare, discovered a tomb in Egypt in 1961. The record is clear on that point. But what was never disclosed was what they found inside the tomb. From the available evidence and highly placed sources, in the sarcophagus were the remains of an alien creature who died in Egypt about 10,000 years BC.
Ivanovich chronicles the purported KGB mission in a book to be published titled Project ISIS, the KGB's discovery of the tomb of the visitor.
The point I'm making in my book is that the presence of this creature and the design of the pyramids and the whole pool of historical and scientific evidence shows that this particular visitation took place about 11,000 years BC.
Long before the Babylonians or the Greeks, before the gods of the Assyrians or those of Crete, long before all others, there was Egypt. The world owes much to the ancient Egyptians. They were the first mathematicians, the first astronomers. They gave the world the principles of geometry, the use of symbols to convey numbers. The first calendar was Egyptian, as was the first writing paper. The world's first libraries were found buried under the sands of Egypt. This is why the disclosure of Project ISIS could be momentous. For centuries, the land of the Nile has lured archaeologists. It's no different today. They could be analyzing antiquities that have long been studied, searching for new clues that may disprove old theories, or struggling to reconstruct the daily life of a culture from tiny fragments of the past. While much progress has been made, one fundamental question remains. The archaeological record of Egypt shows little evidence of the gradual development common to all civilizations. The Egyptians seem to have sprung fully formed around 2500 BC, with scientific knowledge far advanced for the time. A noted archaeologist likened it to building a Model T one day and the next the space shuttle. So how did the Egyptians know what the rest of the world would not learn for centuries, and know it in an historical sense immediately? It appears, some say, as if Egyptian civilization did not evolve from historical development, but was built on a legacy. There is some speculation the legacy was from the remnants of a lost civilization that perished in the biblical flood. Dr. Ivanovich contends Project ISIS discredited this theory. According to Ivanovich, the KGB uncovered evidence suggesting Egypt was founded on a heritage of wisdom from an extraterrestrial race. Coming up next, exclusive footage of what could be the discovery of the millennium.
I don't believe the soldiers realized the significance of what they were looking at. The first hard evidence of an humanoid extraterrestrial life form.
The austere building behind me once housed what was undoubtedly the world's largest and most feared intelligence agency. Why would the KGB be so interested in what many consider to be science fiction? The genesis of Project ISIS allegedly began in the post-war period of the 50s. From the blood-red ashes of World War II, a new Soviet state emerged. No longer was Russia a backward agrarian nation. The motherland was now a superpower and willing to prove it. Under the dictatorship of Nikita Khrushchev, the Soviets were determined to show the democracies of the West that communism was superior. It was a challenge America could not ignore.
The competition between the two superpowers was an immense drain on Soviet economy. Placing the man in space before the Americans was a great propaganda feat, but it cost billions in rubles. The same for the arms buildup. Each time America tested the nuclear bomb, Russia had to respond with a bigger one, again costing the Soviet government billions.
As the world watched and prayed, the two nations battled for technological supremacy.
Khrushchev knew that the so-called socialist camp headed by the Soviet Union could not keep up this pace. It did not have NATO's resources. That's when the KGB was ordered to investigate less costly means of technical advancement.
At the height of the Cold War, the KGB was the largest secret police and espionage force on the planet, with more than 300,000 agents. Under orders from the Kremlin, the KGB focused its considerable resources on areas that some would call fringe science. Unidentified flying objects was one area of deep interest. Allegedly, the Kremlin hoped the investigation of UFO reports could advance aeronautical design. The former Soviet Union was an ideal location for the study of unidentified flying objects. Russia had more UFO sightings than any other nation. The principal reason for the multitude of UFO cases is that Russian borders surrounded the largest landmass in the world. Of the reported sightings, the most compelling case is known as the Donogorsk incident.
It's the best documented crash because we do have the fragments. They have been analyzed. It was a small probe. It was not kind of a big object, but something crashed on a hill in Donogorsk in January of 1986.
Through analysis of the crash site, a computer simulation of the last moments of the doomed spacecraft was created. If we play the tape in slow motion, we can observe why the saucer-shaped design is so prevalent in UFO reports. Experts say a fixed-wing aircraft would have buried its nose in the ground and burst into flames. As one can see, the saucer design enables the space vehicle to skip and cartwheel over the field. The spacecraft would be damaged, but not destroyed. It's still not certain if the Donogorsk incident was the crash of a UFO, but the film you are viewing seems to support the theory. This exclusive footage was obtained through contacts with the Russian mafia. Allegedly, the film was stolen from the top-secret files of the KGB. Some believe it documents the Donogorsk recovery mission. Military personnel and KGB agents seem to be at the crash site of a saucer-shaped object. Appearing to be in charge of the operation is the man wearing the fur hat. We believe him to be a senior KGB agent. The KGB also investigated the power of psychics. Experiments were conducted to test the feasibility of gathering intelligence through mind control. Leading the paranormal division of the KGB was a man with a taste for blood.
The KGB research into the anomalous phenomena had begun in the 1920s, when a special laboratory, so-called dark room, was created. From the middle 1930s, Russian psychics had been persecuted under Stalinist regime. Gleb Boki, who was in charge of the paranormal phenomena for the KGB, was a sinister and cruel person who was known to drink human blood. The KGB had conducted psychotronic weapons research on prisoners that were sentenced to die and also political dissidents. When Gleb Boki and people who had studied the anomalous phenomena with him in the KGB were executed in 1937, all of the files were transferred, as far as we know, to the most secret archives of the KGB. However, the paranormal research went on. Under Khrushchev, great successes had been achieved in the Soviet Union with the paranormal. Some of the first biogenerators and machines to alter human minds came to the scene. The Americans were worried about Soviet research programs because they knew that the Soviet Union would not use it for peaceful means, that the Soviet Union was there to conquer and to overtake the United States.
UFOs, the paranormal, and Project ISIS, all three were part of the Kremlin strategy of achieving military superiority.
According to the author, the film you are watching was found in the archives of Project ISIS. Ivanovich claims it was due to the film's immense historical value that he chose to risk his life to smuggle it out of a heavily guarded facility. Ivanovich contends this footage documents the KGB's discovery and exploration of an Egyptian tomb. After this exclusive television broadcast, the film will reportedly be available only to research institutions. Those are the purported remains of the alien creature found in the tomb.
Our discovery in the Egyptian desert in the late 50s, early 60s is one of the most prominent and totally unexpected and most unbelievable, I would say, because we are talking about the first in history discovery of anthropomorphic alien extraterrestrial creature found in a sarcophagus.
But according to Ivanovich, the discovery of the alleged mummified extraterrestrial was not the original goal of the project. He claims the mission began as a quest for a mythical chamber of knowledge. One of the enduring legends of Egypt is that somewhere, perhaps inside the Great Pyramid or in a lost tomb, somewhere in Egypt is a chamber of knowledge containing the wisdom of gods who came from the stars. Reportedly, the KGB's mission was to find the chamber in the hope that it might contain information applicable to military technology. The Russians were not the first to search the antiquities of Egypt for ancient wisdom. In 820 AD, Sheikh Abdullah al-Mamun was the first to breach the massive stone of the Great Pyramid. The Sheikh was drawn by the legend that, concealed in the pyramid, was a record of the past and future of mankind. The Sheikh coaxed his terrified men up the dark passageway, but in the king's chamber, all they found was an empty sarcophagus. Some believe if there is a chamber of ancient wisdom, it will be found under the Great Pyramid. For years, there has been speculation about subterranean passageways running from the pyramid to the Sphinx. Recent seismic surveys suggest a mysterious chamber-like cavern lies below the Sphinx. This has led some to speculate that perhaps the legendary Chamber of Knowledge does exist.
Is there a storehouse of knowledge left behind by ancient visitors? Signs point to yes.
Coming up next.
It makes perfect sense. Egypt would be an obvious choice for the aliens who had to establish an outpost for planetary expeditions.
The vastness of the desert here is overwhelming. It was in this region, at the edge of civilization, that something profound may have happened over 2,000 years ago. Egypt was the first great civilization. Pharaohs ruled the kingdom for over 1,000 years. Who were these mysterious people? From where did they derive their power and wealth? Where did they find their wisdom?
The objective of this particular mission was to find the knowledge which was left behind from an advanced culture which predated this traditional Egyptian history. The team of archaeologists was composed of Egyptologists from Russian Soviet Academy of Science, which was one of the best schools of ancient cultures in the whole world. And in spite of that, the KGB leaders gave the project little chance for success.
I was one of the first to be recruited by the KGB. I don't know what was their interest in it. But anyway, you cannot say no to Комитет государственной безопасности, KGB. You got orders, you have to do it. So my recommendation was to start right there at the Giza plateau.
A trip to Egypt is a humbling experience. The ancient monuments still cast their long shadow upon the works of man. The Giza complex includes the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Nearby is the Pyramid of Menkaure. Next in size to the Great Pyramid is the Pyramid of the Pharaoh Khafre. Many believe it was Khafre who ordered the creation of the Sphinx. Carved out of the bedrock, the colossal statue appears to be guarding secrets that lie beneath the sands. It took centuries to complete the complex of monuments on the Giza plateau. It must have been an awesome vision. Towering pyramids, gigantic statues, temples, crypts and causeways. Giza was a manifestation of the power of Egypt and the divinity of a living god called the Pharaoh. No monument better symbolizes the godlike power of the Pharaoh than the Pyramid of Khufu. For size and engineering precision, the Great Pyramid has never been equaled. The pyramid weighs roughly 6 million tons, 20 times the weight of the Empire State Building. Until the Eiffel Tower, the Great Pyramid was the tallest structure in the world. Over 2 million stones were used in its construction. No stone weighs less than a ton, and some as much as 30 tons. Inside, passageways connect the chambers, shafts run to the exterior. Today the pyramid is rough stone, but it once had a mirror-like finish of masonry. It is believed the Great Pyramid was adorned with a top of solid gold. The sunlight dazzled the eye for hundreds of miles. For centuries, experts have speculated about the true purpose of the pyramids. Conventional theory claims the pyramids were symbolic gateways to the afterlife. Others believe the pyramid was an astronomical observatory. Some say a geographical survey instrument. One outlandish theory states the Great Pyramid was a grain elevator, but most experts do agree the pyramids were far more than just gigantic tombs.
Nobody's ever found evidence of a burial in a pyramid, and we still don't know how they were built.
Scholars had argued that the technology to construct massive pyramids might not have been available to people at the point in human history when these structures were built. The pyramid builders knew information that would not be rediscovered for centuries. For example, the pyramid's height corresponds to the distance from the Earth to the Sun. The pyramid was built within 4 degrees of the corners of the compass, a precision that has never been equaled. And amazingly, the Great Pyramid lies in the exact center of the Earth's landmass.
When I began my field research at Giza, I was immediately struck by the fact that whoever built the pyramids could determine longitude and latitude. This is amazing since the technology to fix longitude was not invented until the 1600s. But more to the point, the pyramids were constructed at the exact center of the Earth. Also the size. The pyramids are visible from an extremely high altitude. They can be seen from the moon. Plus, the pyramid is one of the best shapes for radar reflection. For these reasons, I advise the KGB the pyramids of Egypt were built for navigation by alien explorers.
It makes perfect sense. Egypt would be an obvious choice for the aliens who had to establish an outpost for planetary expeditions. The initial landing by an alien expedition team would pick a flat area with a few obstacles. Egypt would be an obvious choice since it's also in the center of the land, the habitable mass of the Earth.
The principal evidence in support of his theory is the film. According to Ivanovich, the footage came from the maximum security archives of the KGB. The author accepted our request for an independent analysis. We asked Russian film expert Sergei Goncharov for his opinion.
This is the name of the factory that manufactures the motion picture film in the city of Pereslavl. This is the type of film type A2, which is the emulsion.
Goncharov analyzed the film emulsion for signs of fraud.
Now that we've looked at the cans, the next thing to do was to actually find out if the film itself had any markings on it. Okay, in the very beginning of the film, we have this word, which in Russian says начало, or the beginning, or the start. Okay, then we have the two bits of information which says plyonka number 267. Plyonka in Russian means emulsion or film, could denote the reel, the roll, or a batch, and this, of course, is the number. The next thing we see is this bit of information. Совершенно секретно, top secret archive of the KGB logo, and the word archive of the KGB.
A man who claims to have worked for the National Security Agency was consulted.
To determine the validity of any visual media these days, you must look for details that are in conflict with the facts. For example, the insignia on this officer's uniform. It matches that of a specialized Soviet military unit that served in Egypt during the construction of the Aswan High Dam. Until a few years ago, that information was classified.
He requested enlargements be made of individual frames.
And the frame that shows the shovel, those long-handled shovels, the Linoya Lopatka they were called, the soldiers hated them, very impractical. They were replaced with short-handled versions similar to those used by NATO forces, but not until the late 60s. This footage is reported to have been shot in 1961, so there is no conflict there. So either someone knew information not readily available outside of government channels, or went to a great deal of trouble and expense to fake it. Or the film may be authentic. However, let me caution you, the KGB are experts at disinformation. But why would they wish to perpetuate such a fantastic hoax? Who knows? But it is not beyond their capabilities.
The KGB has a history of sophisticated counterintelligence. Could Project ISIS be a skillful fabrication by the KGB? But why would the Soviets want to perpetrate a hoax of this magnitude? Perhaps as a diversionary tactic, masking the real mission to Egypt. Whatever the truth, whether real or fake, we have learned that when investigating the KGB, it is best to keep an open mind to any possibility.
This is the period where military, after first safety precautions have been taken, entered without wearing gas masks, but that's what they do now was absolutely mistaken, and you will see why. Because they had to open sarcophagus after proper examination of the content.
Ivanovich has studied the film countless times and has no doubt that the footage is genuine.
And you see the fumes that turned out to be toxic come out. These are the remains, actually, of this extraterrestrial alien. So, and the fumes which are coming out, we will see it later, intoxicate one of the soldiers. Under such circumstances, under this particular condition, they could be very poisonous. And that's why they invited the team of this chemical warfare specialists to check the contaminated area again and assist this soldier who lost his senses. Those particular remains haven't been mummified. They were just dried with two types of salts. Natron, they called it, this mixture of two carbon dioxide salts. So, which is quite popular, which just absorbs the moisture from the corpse, and Egyptians used it for thousands of years. Doesn't look like aliens buried that particular alien. It looks like local primitive people found the body and just buried it according to their burial procedure. So it was not like a solemn funeral of an alien by an alien. So it probably, the body was found somehow and brought to this particular tomb without being mummified. So we have just a skeleton and with definitely anthropomorphic features, but by all means it's not human. Here we have the last period of evacuation of the most important samples of archaeological excavation in the tomb. So we have two Bedouins here, just they were invited as helps, quite absolutely neutral people. These are the most important pieces of evidence that were taken from the tomb after being inspected by the team of the scientists.
Coming up next.
Remember, nobody knows my name.
They will never appear on TV.
When we return right after this. Some experts speculate the Kremlin feared the CIA would learn about the mission to Egypt. Pressed by US competition in the arms and space race, Russia did not want to start a tomb race. The geopolitics of the time enabled Project ISIS to operate with complete secrecy. By the late 50s, Egypt accounted for 43% of all Soviet aid to Third World nations. Soviet military personnel in Egypt numbered over 20,000. The heavy military presence was used to shield the covert operation. According to Ivanovich, project scientists were headquartered in Cairo. Small squads of archaeologists would then conduct studies at the nearby Giza plateau. Often the scientists would be disguised as Arab peasants or soldiers.
For some strange reason, we were sent there in soldiers' uniform with Kalashnikov assault rifles, like we were a bunch of soldiers or something, when in fact we were just archaeologists. And if it were just, they would just tell everybody that there's a group of archaeologists looking for some artifacts, that would be accepted by everyone.
The undercover archaeologists were aided by good old-fashioned KGB espionage. In 1959, the KGB recruited an official within the NASA government, Sami Shadrov, the director of the President's Office of Information.
Because of his position, he had carte blanche to highly classified information. Sharaf was also an expert in wiretapping of Egyptian officials.
Many times the information gathered seemed of little importance. However, according to Ivanovich, on the night of July the 24th, 1960, a conversation was recorded that would move Project ISIS beyond the realm of myth and speculation.
This recording was obtained through the sources who I must protect.
أيوة يمكن تعمل عليهم. هم كانوا يشربوا خمرة؟ لا هم مسلمين متشددين. قالوا إنهم وجدوا مقبرة مقفولة. أيوة دي معوي، قالوا هو قبر. كيف عرفوا أشياء زي كده؟ دخلوا شافوا على الحيطان رموز وكتابات وصور حكاوا عليهم من قبل. تعرف إيش يعني هذا؟ وجدوا مقبرة الزوار. وجدوا مقبرة الزوار. وجدوا مقبرة الزوار.
One of the top officials, monitored by Sharaf, had found his brother. Apparently, two Bedouins stumbled upon the hidden tomb. So they remained delirious for a few days, and finally they brought the local hospital. And they repeated only this word, Maqbarat al-Zohar, which means the tomb of the visitor. A grave of the ancient Egyptian god who does not exist in Egyptian pantheon. He is not included as a god. He has a special sign as a visitor god.
Long before the time of the Pharaohs, there was a god who came from the skies with the others of his kind. They brought magic to the land, wonders, power, and wisdom. They returned to their home in the stars, but one stayed behind and taught the people of Nile all he knew. He was buried in the secret place. It is called Maqbaratul Zuwar, the tomb of the visitors.
Can myth conceal the truth? Could a legend be based on fact? Perhaps. But the claim the KGB thought mythology could lead to alien knowledge demanded further investigation. Through sources in the Russian underworld, we contacted a man who claims to have once been a diplomatic courier for the Soviet Union.
I worked as a messenger for diplomatic corps. One of my roles was moving documents between Cairo and Moscow. Some of them was from Mr. Sharaf. He was a director of information center, Egyptian information center at that time. It was 60, something like that. Most of that papers weren't interested. And some of them in code I couldn't even understand. But few of them I understood. And how could I say in English? It seemed taught to me. And I decided to make a copy.
Can we see those copies?
Don't worry, you'll like it. That's my secret place, nobody knows about it. You don't have places like this in America, huh?
We were taken to an abandoned office building on the outskirts of Moscow. A hidden camera and concealed microphone recorded this footage.
All my paper in here. That's like a life insurance. A lot of people. You know, I think.
Let me see.
Among the documents was a memo purported to be from a KGB official. It reads, "My agents have secured the notes of the scientist working on the tomb of the visitor findings."
You have another one?
Agent.
Is that KGB?
KGB letter.
Other documents appear to directly refer to what can be seen in the film. For example, one paper seems to be a shipping document. Classified top secret, it reads, subjects, 15 crates of relics, 1 partially mummified body, 1 stone sarcophagus, and 8 hieroglyphic samples.
And this is a letter from agent to Moscow.
Oh, gosh.
Letter from agent to Moscow.
Another is a report allegedly by a scientist who was among the first to examine the tomb. It reads, "During the inspection of the wall segment, we noted an odd sensation. A magnetic repulsive force seemed to be emanating from the rock. We were unable to find any scientific explanation."
This
is one from Egypt?
Samples from Egypt. Pyramids.
This memo appears to be the cryptologist report. Findings. Partially deciphered message on tomb wall indicates the return of the ancient wing gods. Other papers appear to be orders to the military unit on the site. Apparently, the highest stage of security was in place when the sarcophagus was opened. Even though the documents seem to validate the film, one always needs to be cautious. For in the shadow world of the KGB, nothing is ever as it seems. Coming up next, possibly for the first time in history, an alien abduction captured on home video.
Whatever it was these people saw operated beyond our known laws of physics.
When we return right after this. In Egypt, the focus of attention for most visitors is the awe-inspiring antiquities, ancient wonders from the past. Is it possible these attractions have been a draw for life forms other than human tourists? Not according to Ivanovich. He claims aliens didn't come to Egypt to see the pyramids. They came to build them.
We deal with the unprecedented discovery in the history of mankind. It's the first discovery of the remains of a humanoid extraterrestrial alien which was walked the Earth 10,000 years BC.
Reportedly, the discovery of the tomb caused the KGB to split the mission's efforts. While work continued in Egypt, scientists in Moscow studied the tomb artifacts and mummy.
I got a call to report to the lab immediately. There was an archaeological discovery, and we were to test the artifacts. And we were told that the items came from an Egyptian tomb of an undisclosed location, and we were not to discuss our findings with anyone.
Meanwhile, back in Egypt, project scientists began to speculate the entire Giza plateau was designed for a single purpose. This theory found support in later research.
I believe, and there are different schools of thought, but I believe that the pyramids were, or certainly the Great Pyramid, was a machine. It had some sort of purpose. The measurements are extremely precise. For example, the ratio between the height of the pyramid and the perimeter of the pyramid is the same as the ratio between the radius of the Earth and the circumference of the Earth. So you can actually see the pyramid as sort of like a three-dimensional triangular depiction of a hemisphere, which might suggest that there was some reason to have the pyramid resonate with the planet. Now, I can convince, I think, even the greatest skeptic in 30 seconds that pyramids have powers to alter cosmic rays. Now, that sounds like some spacey thing, but here's the deal. A prism.
Archaeoastronomer Yuri Vladimir agrees with the prism hypothesis.
The pyramids are in effect huge prisms capable of concentrating energy. Capturing the light from the stars would initiate a process that would turn the Great Pyramid into an interstellar transmitter.
Project scientists claim the three pyramids and Sphinx might be integral parts of an immense machine designed by alien engineers. According to them, all the monuments of Giza are linked by a master control mechanism inside the Great Pyramid. A descending passageway leads to the king's chamber. Above the mighty sarcophagus is what the scientists call the star shaft. According to their theory, when a specific celestial alignment occurs, starlight streaks down the shaft. The prism shape concentrates the radiated energy. When the radiation strikes the sarcophagus, something similar to a cold fusion reaction might take place. Project researchers believe the energy would be magnified and transferred to the other monuments. In ways not fully understood by the team, a unified beam of energy would erupt, producing a celestial beacon for planetary navigation by spaceships. No doubt a far-fetched theory, but nevertheless the team informed KGB headquarters of their findings.
We briefed the KGB on our findings. We were ordered to investigate possible targeting sites for pyramid transmissions.
The KGB also hoped the scientific effort at Giza would shed light on one of the most intriguing mysteries of our time: alien abductions. For the past few decades, there has been a growing belief that extraterrestrials are abducting humans. The typical report has aliens entering bedrooms through walls, levitating people into waiting spacecraft. On board, physical examinations and experiments take place by small, bald creatures with enormous eyes. For some, it is hard to believe reports like these have a basis in physical reality. But most do agree the abduction phenomenon has grown to epidemic proportions. Whitley Strieber has written several books about his alleged abductions.
Carl Sagan wrote an essay saying that we'd probably be visited by aliens on the average of every 10,000 years. So why not now? It doesn't seem at all improbable to me. I don't know what the big, all the screaming about it can't be possibly true, it can't be true is. It's very strange. Why wouldn't it be true? The universe is such a huge place.
Strieber is often cited as the person who brought alien abductions into the cultural mainstream. Like many abductees, he came to the realization of his alien encounter after psychotherapy and hypnosis. The fact that abductees often undergo hypnosis and counseling before recalling their abduction leads many researchers to attribute the abduction phenomena to a cultural delusion. However, other researchers have shown that the core of UFO abduction experience cannot be explained psychologically. Obviously, if we hope to determine the validity of alien abductions, it will require far more than just memories. We will need what the KGB thought they could find in Egypt: empirical evidence. The KGB reasoned that if Egypt was once the site of an extraterrestrial outpost, the country could very well be an active area for alien abductions. They may have been right. It has long been rumored that in 1985 a bus full of tourists disappeared while in Egypt. Some say it was an alien abduction, Perhaps due to the thriving tourist trade, Egyptian authorities have neither admitted nor denied the disappearance. But during our investigation, we obtained from Russian black market sources a missing person report dated April the 25th, 1985. Purportedly, it is from the Cairo Police Department. It reads, at approximately 1900 hours, a group of 22 tourists departed the Cairo hotel. They told no one of their destination. A video camera was found near the abandoned bus. Even though the authenticity of the document could not be verified, we still searched for a lead on the alleged disappearance. We found it during the hidden camera exchange.
That's terrible. Scary. Tulubanka. It's a headquarters of KGB.
You've been in there?
Yeah. You ready to pee in your pants? That's terrible.
Hey, by the way, when you came out of any of your last trips out of Egypt, did you ever come across a videotape, Egyptian?
You're lucky. I have some tape. I saw some pornography, but only this tape. You can have it.
What you are about to see could possibly be the closest we have come to confirming the reality of alien abductions. If so, this dark, grainy home video could change our world forever. Allegedly, this tape is from the video camera found near the abandoned bus. No visual enhancement has been done to the tape. What you are seeing is exactly how it was recorded. People are exiting the bus, no indications of force. We wondered if terrorists could have been the cause of the disappearance. No signs of that. The location appears as if it could be somewhere in Egypt. Note the sign in Arabic. Similar to a no trespassing sign, it reads, forbidden. The group seems to be gathering around what appears to be a wooden covering of some kind. They seem to be doing nothing more than waiting and watching the skies. Night has fallen. Flashlights come on. Watch close. What follows is either a cruel hoax or the first alien abduction ever visually documented. Radiance from somewhere illuminates the night. Were these people victims of an alien abduction? We asked a psychologist who specializes in post-abduction stress disorder. Due to the nature of her work, she declined to be identified.
These individuals don't look like individuals who generally report alien abductions. Most abductees recall a terrifying experience. They remember being panicky, scared, petrified with anxiety. But these folks look like those going to church. Look how they walk. Slow, reverent, some with heads bowed. Note the faces, the expressions, hopeful, peaceful, and now jubilation. They appear to be welcoming the abduction. This is most unusual.
We examined the videotape for signs of fraud. Since the mid-80s, home video cameras have become increasingly sophisticated. Lenses are faster, enabling better images under these low-light conditions. Through the integration of motion correction filters, the distortion effects you see have been greatly reduced. Our technical comparisons indicate the quality of the video appears consistent with that of home video cameras of the period. During our examination of the tape, one fact emerged. If these people were abducted, the source of this light could have been from an alien spaceship. If so, the light could be our best clue, for light possesses something like a fingerprint. The spectrum of light is used by astronomers to determine the motion of astronomical objects. We asked an optical consultant for his interpretation. Claiming he has worked for the CIA, the man requested he not be identified.
The light on the video does not match any known light source. Tungsten, halogen, fluorescence. The Kelvin reading is normal, as if sunlight were the source. But since the video was shot at night, we have to rule solar out. That leaves nuclear, or possibly an ionized photon device. Now, I also measured the velocity of the light source. Early in the video, the spectra is blue shifted. That means that the light source is moving toward the observer. But what is astounding is the magnitude of the blue shift. The speed of the light-emitting object must be moving at relativistic speeds, fast enough for Einsteinium effects to take place. Now, later on in the tape, I took a reading. In fact, I have it here. Yes, later on in the tape, I took a reading, and the spectra had shifted away from the ultraviolet region. Now, when the light is at its brightest, it's no longer blue shifted at all. The spectra is normal, as if the light source is at rest, just hovering over these people. Later in the event, the spectra became red shifted. This means the light source is accelerating away from the observer, in this case, the camera. Now, when the camera was on the ground, the light was weak, but I was able to get a reading. It shows the object was traveling near the velocity of light, the speed limit of the universe. It had reached this speed in seconds. Whatever these people saw operated beyond our known laws of physics. It's as if something came to Earth in a streak of light, hovered over these people for a second or two, and then they vanished. Like magic.
If these people encountered something not of this Earth, why were they not fearful? And how did they know the time and location of the alien visitation? Questions our investigation will answer when we continue.
Through the forensic reconstruction, they were able to replicate the face.
For years, many people have attributed strange, unexplained powers to pyramids in general, and specifically the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Apparently, it's not just proponents of New Age mysticism who have made these claims. The KGB ordered more tests. Psychics were reportedly called in to conduct paranormal investigations.
This quite risky experimentation really took place. But the levitation, yes, took place. When we deal with such a paranormal phenomenon, it's quite natural. First of all, the energy level of the whole area inside that tomb was absolutely beyond normal.
A computer projection was produced of the mummy as it originally lay in the sarcophagus. From the data, scientists claimed they could ascertain the physiology of the individual.
Through the forensic reconstruction, they were able to replicate the face of a humanoid found in the tomb.
Characteristics included a large cranium, unusually large eyes, small chin, mouth small, visible signs of teeth, positive, long neck, estimated size of individual 2 meters.
As the forensic work continued, investigators at Giza probed the unity between the pyramids and the constellation of Orion. The scientists placed a celestial map over the plateau. Centered over the pyramids were the 3 stars that make the belt of Orion. Next, they traced the path of stars and took tangents of the Sphinx and pyramids.
It was like a treasure map. The pyramids, the paths of the stars, they all intersected. And X marked a star in the constellation of Orion, a star very much like our sun.
At Project Labs in Moscow, the facial reconstruction neared completion.
I know this sounds unbelievable. I wouldn't believe it myself if I hadn't been there. But the reconstruction, the mummy, it didn't appear to be human. Maybe the legend is true. Maybe we found an extraterrestrial in that tomb.
The conclusion was inescapable. The aliens who came to our planets in 11th millennium BC laid the foundation for building the pyramids thousands of years later. And they came from the planet that circled the star in the constellation of Orion.
Coming up next.
Well, the Egyptians believed that DNA came from the heavens and that it would someday return.
When we return right after this. If something not from this earth had been recovered here in Egypt, it would have been brought to a classified military base back in Russia, where super-secret operations are being conducted since before the Second World War. As you may know from our previous investigations, even the KGB can't keep secrets forever. It could be blackmail operations, UFO recovery missions, even assassinations. KGB missions have been prone to leaks. Project ISIS was no different. Reportedly, an ironclad web of security surrounded the labs and offices of Project ISIS, but many of those working on the project were professors, scholars, and scientists, people in the habit of discussing their work. Top secret documents began to circulate. Rumors spread.
Some word of the alien and the tomb leaked out. A group of people began to meet, former KGB staffers and other, mostly computer and technical people. All these people call themselves the followers.
The cult took their name from an obscure passage in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. According to Egyptian belief, a family of gods came from the stars, bringing to the people of the Nile the wisdom of the universe. One day, the gods returned to their celestial home, except Osiris. The god gathered a group of mortals together and taught them much wisdom, including the magic of numbers. They were called the followers. It was their duty to protect and preserve the sacred knowledge until the gods declared mankind ready to receive their wisdom.
They believed that the tomb was that of an alien who was once worshipped as the god Orisis. The being brought to Earth the knowledge of science and math. He was responsible for the growth of civilization.
The KGB ignored the security risk posed by the cult and ordered the scientists to refocus their efforts on the original goal of the project. Apparently, the Kremlin had seen little value in an alien mummy. With the use of ground-penetrating radar, the passageway and tomb were imaged. Nothing seemed unusual. They lowered the radar scan, still nothing. The radar screen showed only rock strata. They were about to abort the mission when the radar began to pick up an anomaly, a faint shadow. It appeared like a passageway. Directly below the tomb was a large spherical cavity.
Many in Project ISIS believed they had found the legendary chamber of knowledge. Apparently, the extraterrestrial discovered was buried with a vast library of knowledge and data from the advanced alien culture, which could have immense military relevance. Many wanted the chamber opened.
According to team members, there were those who argued against opening the chamber.
The aliens that came to Earth 10,500 years ago came on a negative mission. They came with the mission to change the DNA of human beings. The task of Soviet scientists, as well as the scientists of the world, is to prevent the alien occupation of Earth.
Their argument was based on the following facts. The mission from Orion landed at exact ideal location to build pyramids that would serve as navigational beacons for further reconnaissance of our planet. The first recorded UFO sightings were reported by the high priest of Pharaoh Thutmose III about 3,400 years ago. UFO sightings continued through the ages, but escalated when man obtained the mastery of the skies. When the nuclear age began and man conquered the inner working of the atom, the aliens from Orion stepped up their observation of the Earth, resulting in a Roswell incident and an explosion of UFO contacts. Abduction reports began to sweep the world in the early 60s. A pattern emerged. Nearly all abductees spoke of physical examination. To the dissenters of the Project ISIS, the evidence clearly showed the mission that started in Egypt in 11 millennium BC was a planetary-wide experiment in social engineering.
The KGB came to the conclusion that through the manipulation of our minds and bodies, aliens have been directing human destiny since the dawn of history.
Well, the Egyptians believed that DNA came from the heavens and that it would someday return. They could very easily be talking about the Anunnaki who came to Earth with their knowledge of DNA and with their DNA itself. In other words, the DNA, some of the DNA that humans are based on, actually did come from the stars.
In their quest for a secret chamber of knowledge, did the KGB discover the horrifying truth behind alien abductions? Coming up next, the shocking conclusion.
And they would just discuss the upcoming visit of, I guess, some extraterrestrials or some beings to Earth, and they would just prepare themselves for this kind of visit.
Mama! Mamacha! Mama!
When we return right after this. The nagging question is, with so many people involved in the recovery operation, what happened to these individuals? And if they can't be found today, why not? According to Ivanovich, the discovery of the spherical-shaped cavity bitterly divided Project ISIS. Believing they had found the mythical chamber of knowledge, many argued for immediate excavation, but others voiced concern. They feared the tomb could be an alien Trojan horse. They warned that opening the hidden chamber could endanger the world.
Uncertain what to do, the KGB did nothing. They sealed off the tomb, wiped all the traces of its location from the files.
Reportedly, in 1981, Project ISIS was officially closed, but many of those associated with the project were never the same. There were reports of personality changes, shifts in religious beliefs, disappearances, even suicides. A pattern emerged.
He was a physicist. He is working with the Russian government.
They began a group. I wouldn't say it was a cult, maybe it was, I don't know.
One night I came back from school and the whole place was a mess and the papers on the floor, and
they would just discuss the upcoming visit of, I guess, some extraterrestrials or some beings to Earth, and they would just prepare themselves for this kind of visit. And it was kind of scary because I mean, when I was a kid, I would believe in things like this.
The night before this happened, he was talking to my mother, and I overheard that he was saying Egypt, something out of this world, something not from Earth, and you know, and then he said KGB, and that's about it.
It was scary for me to realize that my family belongs to some kind of cult or things like this, and God knows what they believe in. It was very strange, and I was thinking that maybe my family is, I was wondering if they were okay.
When I walked into the room, you know, father was laying on the floor with a gunshot.
I just know that they called themselves the Followers.
According to Ivanovich, the cult believed an alien expedition from Orion landed in Egypt in 10,500 BC. The alien who remained in Egypt and laid the foundation of civilization was worshipped as the god Osiris. The followers believed it was Osiris who was buried in the tomb of the visitor. They believed the chamber below the tomb contained alien machinery that could split the fabric of space and time, producing a portal to the aliens' home planet. They planned to go to Egypt and gather at the tomb. But deciphering the writings on the tomb wall, the cult believed the portal would open on April the 25th, 1985. The date matched the alleged disappearance of the tour group. Perhaps they were the cult of the followers. The barren site and wooden covering, perhaps it is the entrance to the tomb. But did these people come to Egypt seeking to be abducted? Or were they looking for a gateway to another world, a passageway to the stars? Questions that perhaps will never be answered. But one mystery appears to have been solved. A Russian TV station provided this tape to us. They asked a woman to view the home video. She claims to be the daughter of a couple who were cult members. She has not seen her parents since they departed for Egypt in 1985.
Я думаю, что в этом нет ничего существенного. Please
Can you keep
keep on
going?
rolling, right? Yeah. So, автобус.
Could you blow it up a little bit? I wanted to see, like, back off a little bit. I want to see that sign.
Появится.
Но не вижу ничего здесь
Сейчас,
не появляется.
подождите, сейчас.
Ну да они идут куда-то. А вот это вот, ну что вот это вот такое, вот это мне хочу. Вообще-то, может быть, вообще-то не Египет, вообще-то другая какая-то страна непонятная. Вот это вот. Что это может?
Прибыла, судя по всему, на место встречи.
Папа! Мамочка, господи, мама моя! Ой, мой гад!
What did you see there? Did you see your parents?
Yeah. I saw my mom and I saw my daddy there. Точно, это был папа. Это я точно знала.
It has been said, to understand Egypt, one must find the strand of truth among the threads of myth, magic, and mysticism, all intertwined in the dusty tapestry of time. Perhaps it is the same with this story. Untangle the theory and speculation, and you will be left with the thin strand of truth.
The whole phenomena, which is impossible to hide now, of UFOs all around the world, particularly in this century, shows that we were under surveillance for a very, very long time.
What I find most interesting about Dr. Ivanovich's theory is the connection between the abductees and Egypt. Now, as a memory aid, I sometimes give my patients a series of pictures of mythological creatures and ancient gods, and I ask them to stop on the photo that most closely resembles the alien they encounter, and almost always, without fail, they stop on the photo of the Egyptian god.
Aliens were very much interested in preserving society from very destructive internal turmoils. And they found extremely intelligent way for it. They introduced a religion which had the whole pantheon of gods as intelligent protectors. The whole world was based on the system of symbols which reflect the presence of intelligence, of beneficial intelligence outside the realm of terrestrial life.
All major religions began as small cults, some with the beliefs as fantastic as the followers. Now, in the case of the followers, a dogma based on the worship of an alien who brought technical advances to humanity could make sense to a lot of people in this day and age. No, I don't believe the cult is finished. Even with the abduction, the mass disappearance, no, I think we will be hearing more from the followers.
With all that we have unearthed here, the big question seems to be, what is the significance of what are clearly some very profound discoveries? And will we ever know the full story? We hope you've gained some insights into what promises to be a continuing source of intrigue and controversy. Thanks for joining us. I'm Roger Moore.
أكد القرآن الكريم على أنه توجد مخلوقات حقيقية غيرنا في السماوات وتعيش هناك، مثل قوله تعالى: ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض وما بث فيهما من دابة وهو على جمعهم إذا يشاء قدير. الشورى. بعض العلماء يفسرون أن لفظ دابة هنا يشير إلى مخلوقات غير الملائكة، لأن الله فرق بين الدواب والملائكة في آية أخرى: ولله يسجد ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من دابة والملائكة وهم لا يستكبرون. النحل. هذا قد يفسر على وجود مخلوقات في السماوات والأرض ولا نعرفها، لأن هذه الآية آية النحل تذكر دواب السماوات والأرض وتفرق بينها وبين الملائكة، مما يفتح احتمالات لوجود مخلوقات أخرى لنعرفها. وفي سورة الجن وجميع آيات الجن في القرآن الكريم، وخاصة الآيات التي تشير إلى أنهم مخلوقات عاقلة مثلنا وتستطيع أن تفهم اللغة والدين، لكننا لا نراها ولا نعلم عنها شيئا، وتستطيع الصعود للسماء والهبوط للأرض، ولها سرعات وبعض القدرات التي لا يستطيعها الإنسان.
وتقول سورة النحل الآية 8: والخيل والبغال والحمير لتركبوها وزينة ويخلق ما لا تعلمون. هذه الآية تشير إلى أن الله يخلق ما لا نعلمه، مما يؤكد وجود مخلوقات أخرى في الكون. وتقول سورة الإسراء آية 44: وتسبح له السماوات السبع والأرض ومن فيهما وإن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمده ولكن لا تفقهون تسبيحهم. هذه الآية تشير إلى تسبيح مخلوقات أخرى غير الإنسان والجن والملائكة، ليست في الأرض فقط ولكن أيضا في السماء.